Just give it a few seconds and then we'll be live. All right. Got everything set up here. And I got Curtis May, president of Practical Wealth Solutions and host of the Practical Wealth Show podcast. Okay, perfect. This looks great. And then Philadelphia. And you're one of those easy names to pronounce. It's just Curtis
Curtis
May.
May. Just like the singer without the field. Yes, I'm very basic.
Right All right. So cool. All right. So here we go. All right. Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit your highly appreciated cryptocurrency, real estate business, save a failed 1031 exchange. I'm your host, Brett Swarts. Each episode, I am joined by some of the best real estate, financial, and wealth minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. We're also streaming, by the way, on expertcresecrets.com. That's expertcresecrets.com. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Philadelphia, and he is the creator and owner of Practical Wealth Advisors and the host of the Practical Wealth Show podcast. The primary focus of his financial planning firm is to help individuals and families become financially free by following the principles of wealth creation that have endured for centuries around the world, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Curtis May. Curtis, how you doing?
I am great. Brett, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to get to know you a little bit here, and I'm looking forward to this interview. So before we get started, would you tell our listeners a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
So my story is I'm the, it's all still with some toes every time I do this, but I'm the anti-Wall Street financial advisor, and I teach something called principles-based planning. I actually got into the financial industry my focus was like buy term investor difference, and I was with a company that specialized in that for 12 years. I actually got my licenses to do business, my insurance license, and a couple of years later after that, my securities license. But I got my insurance license in college, my junior year, when I began to realize the NBA was not looking for 5'11" shooting guards and with a mediocre handle. So but I'm a third generation entrepreneur. My grandfather was in business. My dad was in business. And I've heard from the time I was 7 or 8, boy, you'll never make any money, work for somebody else. And so I thought you majored in business to go into business while I was in college, which shocking, nobody else was thinking that way. And I got into the industry midway through, probably late 1999. I read a little purple book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I started to realize what he was talking about and what I was doing, max out your 401k, buy term investor difference, it didn't gel. And then you start studying like successful people. Like I told you, look at the Forbes 400. They're on there. They build businesses and they buy real estate, but that's not what we were teaching. And so it took me a minute to 5 or 6, 7 years to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with that knowledge. And but it kind of clicked for me around 2010. I read another little book called Become Your Own Banker. And then I kind of been, doing business that way, kind of focusing people on velocity of money over accumulation. And we've really kind of refined that into a process probably over the last 3 or 4 years. And here we go. Here I am.
Hey, amazing. Okay. Hey, love it. We'll dive into some of those secrets here in a minute.
Yeah.
And before we go there, I actually played some hoops in college. I was fortunate if I was the 6-foot white guy who could shoot and had some handles, right? So, but it was small ball, but they pay me, pay for school, so which is cool. So I have a love for hoops. So maybe we share a bit of that. But so before we dive into some of those principles here on building practical wealth, I want to take a step back, Curtis. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and this gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and a help to others. And I want you to go back maybe to the high school days, college days, whatever, earlier days. And I want you to maybe remember maybe 1 or 2 of those gifts that you kind of identified at that point. What were those gifts? Maybe they're strengths. Some people call them superpowers. But maybe what are one of those gifts that you believe you've been given? And how does that help and bless people today?
Well, I think looking back at one, I think in 5th or 6th grade, I didn't realize it. Like I did a Colby and I'm like a 7 fact find. And so I figured out that I'm really good at finding out what I want to know, like information. And I can assimilate information really fast and draw it to you on a yellow pad. And but one of the things I think that sports helped, like when I coach, I always tell people you got to have the will to prepare to win. And winning, everybody wants to win, but you have to do the work. So a lot of the things that if I felt slighted or insulted, athletically or whatever, I could let that drive me like the whole summer. I'm thinking of an incident where a coach wouldn't put me in a practice, when the new recruits come up, and I was insulted, and I that drilled me where I shot 400 shots a day. I ran 4 miles a day. I came back a better player because I was so pissed off. So I can hold on to that in a good way for long periods of time. So I really do the same thing in business, but I think I learned it, translating it from sports, where I wanted to be the best, at what I'm doing. And every quarter I read this book called The 12-Week Year, and I try to, try doing 12 weeks, which you can do in 12 months. And every quarter, one of my goals is to learn something new or get better. And that is kind of direct from high school, college. I always want to get better. I'm going to work on my left. If I go play ball, it's okay. Today, I'm just going to go left today. You need to go somewhere new. You don't have to prove yourself. Okay. And you can just say, all right, I'm just going to work on my left hand. Say, I'm going to drive left. I'm going to go to the basket. I do that in business today, where I always try to compete against myself. And I'm always trying to get better every day, learning more, because
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's a direct thing I think I take from my background in sports.
I relate so much on that. I absolutely love that. Right. It was the internal drive with myself, but I let the external fuel that fire. Right. And try to perfect the craft, and working on the left. I remember always remember, it was like third grade. I had a coach, and he said you got to be able to go right and left, and so that whole summer was just working on my left hand layup, and it came to the point where eventually I could go both. There was no weakness each side. I could go right and left. I watched Kyrie Irving the other night, and he like does this bank shot with his left on the spin. I'm just like, it's so effortless the way he does that, and so I love hoops. And that changes everything. So cool. I like how you apply that to business. So now let's dive right into business. So first question, how do you define practical wealth? And then what is prosperity economics?
So practical wealth is I teach what I call principles-based planning. So it's practical. So it's no trick plays. There are principles to handling money. So like if you guys have read the Richest Man in Babylon, because really people say, what do you do? I really teach chapter 2 of the Richest Man in Babylon, the 7 cures for a lean purse, because you want to, the basics, you master, it's like basketball, right? You master the basics. And so it's the same thing with finances. And so prosperity economics is really looking at the world differently. When it comes to finances, we teach that there's 2 schools of thought when it comes to personal finance. There's what we call the accumulation theory, which is when you're hearing buy and hold, dollar cost average, get out of debt, buy term investor difference, developing retirement nest egg, but dollar cost averaging, all that is based on the theory that if you will stay in the market long range, it's the assumption that the market always goes up, and it's based on accumulation. But when you look at, if you start to study people with serious money, they don't do that. We call that I teach the velocity method, right? So the velocity of money is a principle, economic principle, that money's got to move. We talk about cash flow. We talk about leverage. We talk about, permanent insurance products. So when you study, if you took a corporate finance course, you see more of that. So prosperity economics is really teaching people how to do what the banks do, what the mutual fund companies do. How can you apply their business strategies, their model, and their philosophy about money to personal finance? And so that's what I do. That's what we teach.
Excellent. So it's accumulation theory versus velocity method. One is more maybe stagnant, maybe one's more I don't know if you'd say passive is the right word, but the other one is velocity, where you're moving more, leveraging more, cash flow, teaching what the rich do. Is that a fair summary?
Yes.
Perfect. So what's the first secret to, I guess, breaking out of the old mindset of accumulation theory and getting into velocity method? Or what's the first practical step that you would recommend taking?
Well, so there's 5. So I teach, let's talk about the ideal plan. right? We core four cornerstones is you want to build maximum wealth. This is what you're trying to do. I'm gonna go backwards and I'll drill down a little bit. And then you want to be able to utilize all the wealth that you've created. So I want you to do it now. I don't believe in the deferred life. We want to be able to transfer our wealth to our families, our wealth and wisdom. And then you want to have a plan that works under all circumstances, right? So you can't have a plan that only works when markets go up, because markets go up, markets go down, markets go sideways. And you need to know how to make money in all four, right? So what I teach is principles-based planning. So just from a philosophical standpoint, there's principles, which are unchanging, there's strategy, and then there's tactics. Okay, so principles drive strategy, strategy drive tactics. So I'll go through them real quick and then we can stop and dig deeper in any ones you want to get into. So the first principle is save, right? And so we talk to our clients about is there a difference between saving and investing? Yes, there's a big difference. See, most people are taught to invest. We teach people to capitalize, and I want people saving, and it does not count their 401k, 15% or more of their gross income. Okay, so that's the first principle. Second principle is, I'll just run through them, maximum protection. So I call it playing defense, Brett. So you have to play defense. So you can't buy homeowners insurance when your house is on fire. So we walk people through all their protection, their car, their liability. Should you have umbrella policies? Do you have your estate plan? Do you have your entities? Do you have proper life insurance, your human life value? Because what you want to be able to do is you have to protect the kingdom or the empire you're trying to build. And you've got to do it. You can't like create an LLC and move your assets if you are involved in a lawsuit. So you have to protect that stuff beforehand. So that's the second principle, because what we find is that too many people want to skip steps because it seems boring and they don't want to. I just had to have this conversation with somebody. Oh, I just want to do this. I was like, listen, you don't have a plan. You're running around buying all these courses, but you don't have a fundamental plan of if you're lucky enough to get some of this to work, you don't have a plan for what to do when the money hits your accounts, right? You don't manage cash flow. Right. And the third one is I want to make sure that you leave a legacy for replacement of assets at death. The fourth one is one of the most important ones is liquidity. The number one problem I see is the lack of liquidity on an individual level, and so I want 6 to 12 months of cash. OK, the pandemic proved that most people are too illiquid. OK, they can't withstand interruptions in capital. They can't withstand downturns. Don't have any money if opportunities present themselves. You don't have access to capital. So that's major. And then the fifth is velocity. When we talk about the velocity method, what we focus on is teaching our clients to look to buy or build assets. What's an asset? Something that generates cash flow. Okay. And so we focus on cash flowing assets, not focusing on just growth or just capital gains. You have to look at, because you can't eat equity. So we teach people to focus on velocity and cash flow. That's kind of a long answer, but
it's a great answer. Yeah, there's I like those 5, and I got save, maximum protection. I think I missed the one between that one and liquidity and velocity.
Full replacement of assets at death. Principle 4 is liquidity.
Yeah.
And principle 5 is velocity. So, getting into, okay, I'm going to move my money through assets to buy things that generate cash. You save the cash and then you buy more assets to generate cash flow.
Beautiful. Love it. All right. That sounds fantastic. So now let's shift this into real estate and tax deferral. Part of our podcast is capital gains tax deferral. So I'm curious, do you own investment real estate yourself, Curtis?
Only one, and we'll probably have we'll have about 3 by the end of the year. Out of the 4 asset classes that we teach people, there's 4 asset classes: business, real estate, paper, and commodities. My favorite, because I guess I'm my father's son, is business, because I can make that's my fastest path to cash, is creating value in the marketplace and generating money. So then you take the profits and you buy real estate. But right now, I'm more focused on growing our business.
So we'll focus on the business for a second. So what's the biggest frustration you found either for yourself, clients, or friends when it comes to tax deferral when selling a business?
So I haven't had anybody sell a business. But I actually like to get the taxes paid. I mean, while they're doing it and looking at the tax code to structure. The biggest frustration with the people in business is, one, they don't really have good tax strategy for the money that they're making, and lead generation and cash flow management. Those are the big three that when I'm talking to people that I see. I honestly haven't worked with a lot of people that have sold businesses. I actually got to get you on my show so we can talk about that. And but I don't know if I answer your question.
That's great. Yeah, no, and absolutely. Yeah, in structuring S corps or structuring, C corps or LLCs, depending on how you're doing it, right, and making sure you're getting maximum write-offs. Those are all ways. And then So let's.
All right. So because people think, I started a business and I opened up an LLC, right? And an LLC, correct me if I'm wrong, in and of itself is just a Schedule C, right? You're a sole proprietorship or a partnership. And so I think the two worst ways to be in business, because when you start to make money, you're going to get hit with that self-employment tax. Okay. And it's no deducting your way out of that. So that's when you need to look at in terms of, I don't know how to think of it. I never thought of it in tax deferral, but just restructuring, telling the IRS how you want to be taxed. So now if you can tax as an S corp, pay yourself a salary, now you don't have to pay the self-employment tax. So you're both halves like you do as a self-employment. So that's one of the biggies, just in talking to people about that. Oh, I got LLC. And I had a guy call me and said, I had $15,000 in tax. I said, well, I have an LLC. I said, well, what type are you? What election do you have? I don't know. I said, so do you file a Schedule C? He goes, yes. I said, well, go to XYZ page. You see where it says self-employment tax. And he told me about how much he made. I said, so it's about 15,000, right? I said, yes. I said, you call your accountant and you need to talk about, I forget the form number, but creating an S election so you can keep more of your money. Okay. And is that what you mean?
Absolutely. No, that's a great answer. And that's lots of things you want to consider. Yeah. And then typically it's just depending on how much you're making per year, when you make that change. When I first started out with my LLCs, we didn't necessarily file or convert it to an S corp. File as an S corp is the correct way to term that. Yeah. But once you're making a substantial, and check with your CPA. We don't give tax or legal advice.
That's right.
On the show, but check your CPA and individual stuff. But yeah, it's important to know when to do that and do that early, right, before it's too late. Excellent. So so talk about to us, like with clients coming to you, Curtis, what's the number? What's the the number one thing that they should be asking, but they forget to ask?
The number one thing is here's what people do. They ask for what I call club questions, right? And a club meaning that I always tell people, look, well, how does your business work? Or they'll say, how do you get paid? And I say, well, there's two ways. Let's say you're going to play in the Masters. I got two things to give you, but you can only have one. I can give you the clubs that are in the best players of the tour, or I could touch you on the shoulder, which one, and give you Tigers or Phil, since he's just one ability. So I give you his clubs or his ability. I'll ask him, which one would you rather have? They go, I want the swing. Great. Now, so most of the financial institutions are club manufacturers. Okay. And most financial people are club salespeople. So I had to back up. So mostly I get club questions, right? Should I get a SEP or traditional or solo 401k? Should I get, term insurance or permanent? Should I get a 15-year mortgage or a 30? So they ask club questions, but they don't really ask, but I'm the swing coach, right? So they don't really have, what's the most efficient way to create wealth? Okay. Is most of the number one problem I see with families and with business owners is lack of cash flow management. Okay. And they just don't know they don't think about how to pay themselves and get money out of the business. So they don't really come to me with that, but I know that's a problem. So how are you paying yourself? How do you pay, are you paying yourself a salary? Do you set aside money for profits? Tell me how you organize your cash. I mean, a lot of times that's where the rubber meets the road is cash flow management. They all want to invest, but they're giving more money away. I call these wealth transfers. So, most people think the key to growing their money is investing, but you really have to become more efficient. You can look at your debt. You can look at how you pay mortgages. You can look at taxes. You can look at how you fund retirement plans, kids' education, and major capital purchases, whether in your business or personally. There's more money lost in those 5 things. Like if you just learn to identify leaks in your business or personal economy, but they don't think about that. Everybody just wants to, hit a home run. And what I try to do is help people plug the leaks, because I can talk to you for 10 minutes and I can draw you out where you're losing money at. And let's keep, it's easier to keep it than to go, like every dollar you save is a dollar to your bottom line. And so the first thing when I work with business owners is we talk about that. And it's not sexy, but it's more money to find there. So I actually help people audit their cash flow and help them save. You got to keep the money that you make and stop losing money. And so I work differently.
You're still there. I couldn't agree with you more, Curtis. And I might have been a little slight delay here in our connection on my end or your end. I'm not sure, but yes, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Couldn't agree more. It's the lack of cash flow management. Learning to pay yourself a salary, understanding savings, understanding where and how funds are going, and it's kind of plugging those leaks. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more on that one. So I'm going to refresh here and see if it comes back.
I hope you got. I said some brilliant stuff there.